Hey guys, welcome back to Golf Adjacent with Canon Claycomb. This is Christian Sykes, your host, obviously joined by Canon. Canon, fresh off a trip from Europe and going directly to the Ryder Cup. Two topics that we will be talking about today, as well as a win on the mini tour. Canon, how have you been? It's been a couple weeks since we last chatted.
Yeah, been good. Obviously busy. Like you said, went to Europe last week. I was there for 9 or 10 days, so it was kind of a long trip. Unfortunate that I reached out to you right as I was leaving Europe. We got to do one episode and then take a week and a half break, so I apologize for that. But excited to be back, excited to talk about it, and I think we're going to be on a more normal schedule now, moving forward, which is also nice.
Yeah. But when my thought process with these podcasts is as you time allots, obviously we do want a general schedule with this, but when you're going out to Q school for something that is dealing with you trying to get to be a professional golfer, I don't think that anyone's going to complain that we're not
Yeah.
recording that week. But before you went to Europe, you actually won a mini tour that was out in Florida. I know it wasn't a lot of golfers, and just talk about that kind of experience, and maybe did that help you at all going into that Q school in Europe?
Yeah, so I played, it was a Moonlight Golf Tour event, which is here in Central Florida, mainly Orlando. A lot of the events are 1 day tournaments. This one was a 2 day tournament, which was really nice going into Q school. Like you get 2 days of competitive golf at the same place against the same guys. So you have a leaderboard and you know where you sit, all that good stuff. I've played a lot of those the last like probably year and a half. And I really do think they get you ready for competitive golf. It's not the same. A lot of the time we play in golf carts. It's pretty easy, pretty simple golf courses, stuff like that. But at the end of the day, we are competing and it might not be very deep field, but there's always a pretty close race for first, second, and third. So I think when you're playing those 1 day events, it's a little less like that because you don't know the scoreboard and you're just playing against the guys in your group. But for that one, it was a 2 day event, a little better payout, which was nice. And then just like I had the lead after the first round, so coming home, like sleeping on the lead, knowing that second place was only 2 shots back. It's like professional golfers listening to this, if there's any, will probably scoff at it, and I get it. But for me, I do think it's a good building block and something to keep us fresh. Because, I mean, right now, I don't have status anywhere. So it's really just those events. And then if I play Monday qualifiers, that's kind of my only competitive golf that's going on at the moment. And so it's nice to play those little mini tour events and keep your game sharp and um, play close to home. I mean, where I can stay at home and still compete. So yeah, it was good.
So, talking about before we get into your Europe trip, talking about the 2 day event, what is your mindset when you go to bed knowing that you have a lead?
Yeah, I mean, I think it changes, right? Like depending on the golf course, how I'm hitting it, um, depending on who's in second or third, if I know them and I know their games. I think it all changes. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still stressful going to sleep with the lead. It's a good stressful because it means you're in first place. But there is a different element of having the lead, sleeping on it, doing that whole thing. And I mean, like in college, I had a pretty big lead the 2 times I won going into the final day. And it's honestly more stressful than having like a 1 or 2 shot lead because at those times, I think at Duke, I won by 7 or 8, and then Watersound, I won by 7 or 8. And it's like you go to sleep and it's not like, oh, like winning is going to be awesome. It's going to be like the best. It's if you lose, you're the guy who lost the 8 shot lead, right? And so like that's a totally different animal as well. And in this mini tour event, I only had a 2 or 3 shot lead. So I really went to bed. I was, thinking about making birdies, keeping the pedal to the floor, trying to do that whole thing. But like I said in college, like with those big leads, you almost have to trick yourself out of being in like protect mode. And I feel like in those rounds, when you have a big lead, or like for more normal golfers, like if you're in the middle of a round and you're having, the round of your life, you start get ahead of yourself. And for me in those moments, I always felt like if I bogeyed a hole early, that actually kind of settled me down because I was like, I need to get that bogey back instead of, you go out par the first couple holes, you get into that like, okay, par's a good score, like just keep making pars. And I think you start playing conservative. And like for me, I'm not a conservative person on the golf course. I go at kind of everything. So that par is good has never been good for me. And like if you're having the round of your life, you start thinking about outcome and you're jumping ahead to the end of the round. And it's like, you really just can't do that. Like you're getting ahead of yourself, you're setting expectations. And then, if you don't meet those expectations, it sucks. So sleeping on the lead is hard, basically, is what I'm trying to say. But it's a
Well,
good hard.
not to the same extent, but when I birdie the first hole, I always end up shooting poorly the rest of the round. So,
Yeah.
um,
And like I don't know if there's an answer to the question, but like one of my high school teammates, he always like I don't know if he purposely tried to bogey the first hole, but he bogeyed the first hole a lot and he would just say all my best rounds have started with a bogey on the first. And I do actually like kind of agree with him in a lot of those ways.
yeah. Are you a guy that looks at the leaderboard while you're playing?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm all over the leaderboard. I think it's so dumb when people are like, I don't look at the leaderboard. Like I get it from a like theoretical standpoint, like not looking at it, playing the golf course, but like in golf, like you just need to win, right? You don't need to win by 3 or 4 or 5. Like if there's a number that I need, I'm trying to get that number. Like yeah, that's the only thing that matters. And I'll talk about that when we talk about Q school a little bit more because I do have a story with that. But like I I've never understood the guys that say they don't look at leaderboard, especially coming down the stretch. Like if you have 3 or 4 holes left and you don't know where you stand, like I that would drive me nuts. I would fire my caddy on the spot if he didn't tell me what I was at. And so like I think you have to know what you need to get to. And then at that point in the tournament or that point in the round, it doesn't matter if you make double or triple. Like you're trying to win the golf tournament. And that's why you look at the leaderboard. So yes, I look at leaderboards all the time.
Yeah, I've never really understood the people that are like, "Oh, I don't look at leaderboards," because like, what if someone on the course that's behind you is making a run, and now
Mhm.
you thought that going into it you had like a 3 shot lead, but now you're down by one. Like I'm almost positive that would change how you're going to be playing your holes. So it'd be important to know where you sit on the leaderboard, right? Like
Yeah.
that doesn't make sense to me.
Well, and like inversely, like if you have a 2 shot lead and the guy in front of you makes double and you don't see it, now you have a 4 shot lead and you only have 3 holes left to play, like that drastically changes how I would play a golf hole. Like
Yeah.
if I know all I have to do is make par coming in and he can't catch me mathematically without holing out and making 3 birdies, I'm going to play different golf. And some people will tell you, well, that's a problem. Don't play different golf. And I think there's some truth to that. But if there's trouble up the right and you have a 4 shot lead, we're hitting it left. Like
Yeah.
we're aiming away from the trouble and we're making sure that the worst score we make is bogey. So I do think like not all the time looking at the leaderboard, you should do that. But like definitely in those late situations, I don't understand not looking at the leaderboard.
So moving to Q school before we get to your final round, your first 3 rounds were 68, 72, 69. When you first got off, obviously I think that was your best round. Did the course become more difficult as you played it more or less difficult as you played it more?
It became more difficult. We got a lot of rain in Sweden that week, not like during the rounds, but at night it would rain. So they didn't really have an opportunity to cut the rough. A lot of it, and it was kind of patchy. So a lot of it was not knowing where the thick stuff was and not being able to kind of what we talked about, aim away from it. So the first round, I actually think I played the best round of golf of the week. The conditions were hard, but the golf course was set up pretty easy. It was blowing probably 20, 25, and it was like 61 degrees, which was a shock to the system being here in Florida. Um, and I actually played really good golf. I started on the back nine, which the back nine gave me trouble all week. It was a lot different than the front nine, and I got through the back nine pretty easily the first day. Made a lot of good par saves, and then played the front decent, which the front was scoreable, and that's what I had to do. But I think the golf course definitely got harder. And that's kind of how they work, right? Like a golf tournament, the first round, pins are pretty easy. Tees might be up a little bit. And then by the fourth round, when you've had a cut and you've weeded down to, the top 10, top 15, like you want those guys, playing really hard, good golf to determine a champion. So nothing shocking. It didn't change a ton, but I would say it got progressively harder as the week went on.
Well, it didn't look like anyone went out there when I was just keeping up with it and shot, 6, 7 under. I mean, I think the most I saw someone at on a round was like maybe 5 under, I think.
Mhm.
Um, so it wasn't like the field was, like you said with the PGA Tour Americas, where if you're not shooting 7 under or 6 under every single round, you're not making the cut, or
Yeah.
like we were talking about. But going into the final round, you were pretty comfortably throughout the week inside the what I would consider cut line, the top 15 plus ties. Um, in your final round, you go, I think we talked about this, bogey, par, birdie, birdie, bogey, or double bogey, par, birdie, birdie, bogey, birdie, bogey, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ha talk, and we were talking about this beforehand. That encapsulates the game of golf and professional golf, I think, as a whole, those last 5 or 6 holes that you had. Talk about the emotional roller coaster that you went through, knowing that you were kind of on that cusp, cut line to make it to the second stage.
Yeah, so on the back nine, the final day, I shot even on the front. I was one under for the tournament, which was comfortably inside the cut line at that point. Um, I make par on 10, I make par on 11, hit really good shots on both of those holes. And then I made a double on 12, which in my opinion was the hardest hole probably on the course, on the back nine especially. But for me, there was a cross bunker at like 280 and it was playing straight into the wind in like 58 degrees. So I couldn't cover that bunker. The fairway was like 5 yards wide. That's exaggerated, but it felt 5 yards wide. And then it was an half island green with like a fairway runoff into the water. So any ball that was over there was not stopping. And I made double there. So you go from even to two over, one under for the tournament. Now I'm one over for the tournament, actually outside the cut line. And I do think this is where like people talk about needing time and certain people need to not mature, but like understand the game a little bit better. And there was no panic in my body at that point after the double. It was almost like a relief. Like, okay, that happened. Now we have this in front of us. Kind of like looking at a leaderboard. Like I knew what the situation was. So I was more comfortable in knowing that like this is what I have to do. And if I do it, I succeed and I advance. And if I don't, I don't. And like there's two options and that is what it is. So I made double on 12, made a really good par on 13, like hit a good drive, hit a really good second shot, just missed the putt, which whatever. And then birdied 14, birdied 15, made like a 15 footer on 14 for birdie, and then made like a 18, 20 footer on 15 for birdie. Two huge fist pumps. I was pumping the fist out there. And then 16, really hard par three, three putted for bogey. So then you're stressed out again. I'm right on the number. 17 par five. I hit it in the right trees off the tee. hit a 6 iron slice under the trees back into the fairway, then hit a 9 iron from like 140 to like 2 feet. So tapped in. I'm like, all right, we're chilling. And then I get up on 18 and I'm looking at the leaderboard, like you said, and I'm 18th at the time, or 17th at the time, which top 15 in ties advanced. And the two guys I was playing with, I was beating them both. So I was like, as long as I finish this hole beating them, they have to drop out and no one else in front of me can catch, which is why we talked about looking at leaderboards. So I hit it left of the green into this collection area. It's like 20 feet below the green, the ones where you got to
Yeah.
putt it all the way up. And I watched the guy that I'm playing with. He's literally like 6 inches from my ball. He putts it 3 times, up and back, up and back,
Oh my
up and
God.
back, like comes back to his feet. I'm like, oh no, I just had to watch this. What do I do? So I know at that point that I just need to beat these guys, two guys, and the other guy was kind of out of it. So I was like, I just got to get this on the green. I hit it as hard as I could, and this ball, I kid you not, stopped on the edge of the green, like by a foot. I was sprinting up there to mark it. Like I hit this putt so hard, and it barely got up there. I had like 10 feet for par, lagged it to like, I mean, 6 inches past the hole. Like I tried to make it, but I was like, if it doesn't go in, like we're not marking the next one. So missed it on the high side, tapped in, and it was still stressful because like you don't know if that was the true number or what it is. But to your like earlier point, I was trying to play to the number, right? Like whatever that was it. And in a inverse situation there, I don't know what the score is. I might putt it twice from down there and I make double, trying to make a par, and now I've missed by a shot. So um, I think that was an example of why I look at leaderboards and like, I mean, I hit that putt a little extra hard going up the slope because I knew bogey would be okay, and that could have been the difference. So you never know. It was stressful coming down the stretch, but I will say, like, it was really encouraging for me to play that golf coming down the stretch, even with the bogeys and the double bogey on the back nine. Like, I think what we always said in college was like bogeys happen, try not to make doubles, and they're hard to get back. And so when you make a double, now you're thinking, all right, I got to make two birdies to get it back. And I think for the first time in a while, I rose to the occasion and made those birdies that I needed to make. Because a lot of the time in Canada, I was in the same situation where it's you're missing by a shot, you're missing by two shots, and coming down the stretch, I was just not able to make those birdies to finish a round. And so a lot of the scar tissue I think I had from Canada, it wasn't fixed by this week, but it was a large encouraging part of my game that I think has came a long way from when I first turned pro to this year. And we talked about it a little bit. I love the golf over there. It fits my game a little bit better. And overall, it was a fun week. So,
Well, we said we're going to be open on this, so I'm going to ask you a tough question. Do
hmm
you think because on Canada, you had the option to go to the next tournament because you had status compared to Q school where if you don't make the top 15, you're out, where
hmm
like you said it's either win or it's either do it or you don't do it. There's no next week. Do you think that played a factor in how you responded after you made double bogey?
Yeah, I think it does have a little bit to do with it for sure. The thing I will say though is like in Canada, the season's only 11 or 12 events. And so I did have the full season. But after, I made one cut in the first five starts, I think. And so, like, at that point, yes, you're in the field for the next year or next week, but you're kind of thinking, like, well, what do I do for the next year if I
Oh,
don't
okay.
keep my status? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
it was almost more pressure in Canada because it was like, not that I'm in the next week, but like I might be out next year, out of a job, like
Yeah.
there's no status, there's no security. So I think that played a part in it. And then like in Canada, when I missed those first four cuts or whatever it is, like you're now so far behind the leader on the points list that it's like it feels insurmountable to get back to what the real goal of the Canadian tour is, which is make it to the Corn Ferry Tour, right? Like yes, there's guys that play the Canadian Tour for 10 years, but I guarantee you they would tell you that's not what they want to do. Like they want to be on the Corn Ferry Tour, the PGA Tour. And it's really nice that we have that Canadian Tour, Latin Tour place to play. Um, but it's tough being in that like bottom half of the points list. Like you have to keep playing, you have to keep staying because you're in the tournament. But like at that point in my season, I had to win like three times just to get back to like inside the top 10 on the points list. So it's a different pressure. I think it does take a little bit of pressure off you at Q school because it's pass or fail, right? Like you either pass or you fail. And that does help a little bit. But at the same time, like it makes it that much more stressful because it comes around once a year. And if you don't do it that one time, like you're out.
And you have to wait a
So
whole nother year before you can.
yeah, a whole nother year. And like then you're back here with me playing the Moonlight Tour, which like it's great and I love the Moonlight Tour, but it's not what a professional golfer dreams of when they're dreaming of playing professional golf.
So you actually last year when I was looking this up, when you got through first stage, you actually finished T15 the same as you did this year. You finished T41 in second stage. I believe you're in Spain, and
hmm
we can talk about your schedule after this. But what do you feel like your game is in a better spot despite having the same results as last year going into the second stage?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like my game is in a much better spot this year. And like, so the thing about last year was I played in Vienna and they had a cyclone come through during our tournament. So last year I played a really good round the first day, which I chipped in like twice and made an eagle on a par five. So like that was kind of one of those where you're like everything went right and I didn't really play that good, but it looks good on paper. And then the second day I shot like one over par or even par. And I might have done it the inverse. It might have been like one round was good, one round was meh. And then the last two rounds got rained out. So I kind of got bailed out like a fighter that's kind of struggling by the bell. And this year, like to be inside the number every single round that I played, that's kind of the barometer that I'm looking at where it was like, hey, you did play one really good round this week, which was the 68 in the first round, but you also hung tight and like didn't give up and you didn't have that blow up round or that 75 or 76 that like takes you from three under to one over and you've now, messed up the whole thing. So I think that is the encouraging part. And like really that I just got to play 4 days of golf. I haven't gotten to play a 4 day golf tournament in forever. Walking with a caddy, like it just felt like a real golf tournament and it was really nice to play in. And like I think it was nice to feel like, you belong a little bit. And like, I really wanted to get back to second stage because, like I said, I love playing golf in Europe and I think it fits my game a little bit better. But it was kind of that, like, I think getting through first stage is going to be a bigger deal than getting through second stage, if that makes any sense. Like, in my mind, it was if you get through first stage, the world is your oyster. Like you can do anything. But if you don't, you got to wait 365 days again to try it all over.
Do you feel like because you played the four rounds that this is not the first time, but like this is the first time where or one of the original times where you're like, oh, I actually did it, compared to the Vienna where you only had the two rounds and then you kind of
hmm
got, pushed into the second stage. Like, do you feel like you earned it more because you did it with all four rounds?
Yeah, I feel like I earned it a lot. And I feel like I did it the right way. Like everything I did in the prep leading up to the tournament, like I've never been a range rat. I've never loved hitting golf balls. I've hit more golf balls in the past year and a half than I might have hit in my entire life combined up to this point. Like my hands are toast. I have blisters and calluses in places that people wouldn't believe on my hands. And that's not me. Like, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, oh, I work so hard. But it's like I really did want to make a change in my golf game. And it's really the first time I can ever remember making a change like that to my swing and like what I want to do. and to like actually reap the benefits of like making the change and sticking to a plan instead of being like, oh, this swing thought feels good, or I might try this, or every day changing something. It was kind of like, you know, we always said it in college, and I never really liked the phrase like 1% better because like what is that? But that idea of like every day we're going to go there and we're going to work on this one thing and progressively over time, like it will work out. And even if I don't get through second stage or first stage of Corn Ferry, like it will be nice to know, like, hey, you worked really hard for 8 months and you got an outcome that you wanted. And like remember that like working hard, and it's as cliche as it sounds, like committing yourself to a plan, like it works. And there's like no getting around the fact that like you would just have to do it. You just have to go do it.
Yeah, I mean I agree. So what's next for you? What's on the I know your schedule changed. Maybe not like you didn't expect it to, but it did change with you getting to second stage. So what does your next month or month and a half look like?
Yeah, so the next couple of weeks are actually pretty relaxed. I'm gonna stay here most of the time, other than this weekend, going to the Ryder Cup. But same thing, like still working on the move. It's not anywhere close to being perfect and like where I exactly want it to be. I have first stage of Corn Ferry October 20th through the 24th. That's up here in Ocala, so hour and 15 minutes from Orlando. I'll play that. Hopefully get through there, play second stage. But between that and Corn Ferry Tour second stage, I'll be going to Spain, playing second stage of DP World Tour. And then I'm still signed up currently for Asian Tour Q School. I don't know if I'm going to do that in early November still. I think it kind of depends on how Corn Ferry Tour Q School goes, the first stage. But it is in LA, so I would have to fly to LA anyway to get to Spain potentially. So I might do that. I guess you could go to, it'd probably be easier to go to New York, but
I was gonna say that I've never heard of anyone flying to LA to go to Spain, but
yeah, I might not do that. But I mean, like, I guess my point is I can get from LA to Spain fairly easily if I need to. And if the opportunity is there, like, I'm trying to play everything. I've signed up for everything. I want to play everything. So as long as it fits in my schedule and I can make it work, I'm gonna try to make it work. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what we got going forward.
what is the what's the cut that you need for second stage for DP?
I think it's a little higher. So I think you go like to 24 in ties or 21 in ties at second stage. And one thing they do really well at second stage of DP World Tour Q School that I'm not sure, and like they might do this, but I don't think they do for Corn Ferry, is you can't request what site you want for second stage in DP World Tour. And why they do that is they get the full list of players that will be playing second stage, and they try to balance each stage from a world ranking perspective. So there's not one site that has like a mega field and one site that has a really weak field. Which I think is genius. Like that just makes sense. I'm sure it's probably a little of a nightmare for them to do that like statistically and analytically, but I think it's really smart that they do that. And like with Corn Ferry, I just picked Ocala because it was close. And then I picked the second stage site in Florida because it was close. And then final stage is here in Florida. So like I'm not saying one way is correct or not, but I think, second stage in New Mexico might look a little different than second stage in Ocala. So I like how they do it over there.
No, I mean you're probably gonna have a lot. Not saying anything is wrong with New Mexico golf, but you're probably gonna have a lot tougher field, I think, in Florida, just based off population density of professional golfers relative to
Yeah.
maybe like
Well,
New
and it's just
Mexico.
hard to get to, right? Like
Yeah,
where where do you go? You go to Vegas or fly into Albuquerque or
Phoenix maybe. I don't know.
yeah, like here you can like Ocala, you fly to Orlando, you fly to Jacksonville, you fly to Tampa. Like it's just easier to do.
Yep.
So yeah.
So you're going to the Ryder Cup. Let's hear your thoughts. Well, before we get on your thoughts about the Ryder Cup, I do have a question for you. If you could pick one professional event, whether it be maybe like the Olympics, Ryder Cup, Masters, PGA, Open, the big your players, your big golf tournaments. Maybe not. Let's not say the Masters because I feel like every golfer is going to pick the Masters. If you could pick one that you could play every single time that it is available, because obviously like the Ryder Cup isn't every year, it's every other year. What event would that be?
It would be the Ryder Cup for sure. And like I genuinely like think there's a conversation to be had that like the Ryder Cup one time, if you had to pick, is a better choice than the Masters. And I love the Masters. Like it's one of my favorite weeks every year. I've been a bunch. It's the best place on earth. But I've also been to a Ryder Cup. And I think this year, especially with it being at Bethpage in New York, like tensions have been kind of high across the game of golf for the last 2 or 3 years. Rory's said a lot of things about Bryson. Brandel's said a lot of things about Bryson. Like it's just kind of like got that feeling of like there's something brewing and I just don't know what it is, but I think you're gonna know when you see it. And the build outs at a Ryder Cup are just crazy because like when you go to the Masters, right, you can follow Brooks Koepka or whoever, right? Like Scotty Scheffler, sometimes you can catch them like in Amen Corner with the people that refuse to walk over to Amen Corner because it's far, right? And there's 50 other groups or 40 other groups on the course at the same time. So it's different where like at the Ryder Cup, I don't know what the daily fan allotment is for the Ryder Cup, but that first tee is huge. I mean, that has to seat 15 or 20,000 people, maybe more. And there's only what four groups that are teeing off in the morning on Friday. So you then have what I imagine will be close to 100,000 fans and the president of the United States on Friday at a golf course where there's only 8 Americans on the golf course at one time. So like from a one-time perspective, playing for the United States at home in America, in New York, like all of the stuff that's been going on and the intensified crowds that are on your side, like continuously on your side, I think it would be the best feeling in like as a golfer you could possibly have.
Would you be more of a Scotty or more of a Bryson when it came to crowd work?
I would be more of a Bryson, I think. And I love what Bryson is doing. And I'm like actually kind of disappointed that more golfers haven't taken the route of that. I'm not saying that they need to all do YouTube, but like I saw a video of today of there was a picture of an overhead and it was a swarm of people and Bryson was in the middle and you couldn't pick out which one was Bryson. And like I think that's so cool. And I do think there's still room for it in golf. Like golf is big, but it's not the NBA, it's not the NFL. And I think whatever people are saying about Bryson, like that's fine. And I get it to a certain level, but I respect the hell out of what he's doing. And I think it's genius. And I think his bank account probably thinks it's genius. And and it probably is a serotonin bump for him. Like knowing that he goes out there and there's hundreds of people that are cheering for him just because it's him. Like, I totally get it. And I wish I could do that. Like, that would be my dream, my goal to be like, oh, yeah, he's like Bryson. Maybe a little less reserved. Like, I'm not doing the science stuff and the fist pumping up and down, but like getting the fans involved, getting the crowd involved, like, that's really cool.
I will say that I was not a Bryson fan about 3 or 4 years ago. It was during his like whole COVID transition where he went from, the smaller golf. He was never a small golfer, but like the smaller version of himself compared to when he came out. I think he came out of like in 2020 or 2021. He was just ripped, and
Hmm.
he had. It was when he made the comment about Augusta being a par 68. Like that rubs me as a more traditional golf fan. I do appreciate. I appreciate some level of respect for the game, but then honestly, once he went to live. And once he started doing YouTube golf, and you kind of see more of his personality come out, he's not this like harsh, brash type of guy that he kind of made himself look like because you only saw him Bryson on the golf course. You never saw
Hmm.
Bryson outside of the golf course. Like he's kind of grown on me, and I think what he's doing for the game of golf, not just in a science or hit ball long, you know, do good type of caveman that some people have said mentality that he may have, but like
Mhm.
giving golf a personality is doing wonders to growing the game of golf, and I wish that more golfers did it.
Yeah. Well, and like the thing I will say with Bryson too is like when he said that about Augusta, did it come off wrong and sound insensitive? Yeah, I'm sure it did. And like Augusta built a couple tee boxes after he said that just
Yeah.
to prove a point. But at the same time, I think he probably genuinely felt that way.
Yeah.
Like if you've been around Augusta, he would have hit 8 iron into two, which is a par five. He could drive three. He could get to seven up like 40 yards in front of the green. He would reach eight. Nine's a wedge. 11, he was hitting 9 iron into. 13, he would hit 8 iron into. Like all the par fives were reachable. He had one drivable hole, and a couple short par fours, which like obviously Augusta took advantage of him that week and it kind of made him look silly. And I don't think he was right. But I do appreciate that he said what he thought, right? Because like a lot of the time, the golfers they get into the media and it's like it's a PR answer, and you know the answer before the question's even over. And so it's like, why are you guys even wasting your time doing this media? Like every journalist could just write what you're about to say anyway without you saying it. And so like I think that's the refreshing part about Bryson. I don't agree with everything he says or everything he does. I think some of it's corny and cheesy and probably against the better spirit of the game. But I love how genuine he is. And like, I'm a fan of Bryson, like you said, now because he's gone through this transition. Like, I think he's hard not to like.
Do you think the game of golf is better than it was 2 years ago?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
I know.
Um,
I told you I'm not giving you easy questions.
well, okay, so give me a guideline. Like what do you
You talk about tensions, and you talked about what Brandel was saying, you know, how what Rory has said about Bryson, you know, just general consensus of live and the negative connotation that comes with saying live golf, right?
Mhm.
It feels for my in my opinion, I'll give you my opinion before you answer. It feels now like the whole hype and the whole backlash of live has died down. It feels like those guys, when they come to the majors, are well received by golf fans that 2 years ago did not receive them very well. And it feels like, despite there not being any progress of combining them back together, that the golf world as a whole has kind of merged them back together, despite what the PGA is saying with, you know, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. Like Augusta is letting people them come. You know, all of the majors are letting them come. They're, you know, competing in the Ryder Cup. I think they're working towards getting world golf ranking, you know, status. Things of
Mhm.
that nature where it's not as split, I think, as what it was 2 years ago. So that's kind of my thoughts. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, I think it's getting back to what it needs to be. I do think like I think when Liv came out and the PGA Tour put the stake in the ground that was like there is no returning from what the decision you just made is, right? And for a lot of those guys, like they were the best players in the world. Like Bryson is great. John Rahm's great. Tyrrell Hatton's been playing great. Like, I mean, I would like to see Joaquin Niemann play PGA Tour events. Like, but if you're the Masters, I think you're sitting there and you're just counting the dollar bills that are like coming in, right? Like, oh, we get to be one of the four tournaments where the actual best players in the world are coming to play. And like, I'm not saying other guys on the PGA Tour aren't actually the best players in the world, but like to sit here and tell me John Rahm's not a top 10 player in the world or that Bryson DeChambeau is not a top 10 player in the world, like, I'm sorry, but you're wrong. And like, I know the metrics prove that I'm wrong, but if you actually look at it, I'm probably not wrong. Like Bryson finished what, like top 10 in every major last year, or
Yeah, Bryson, I
maybe
think is
minus
like
the
fourth.
British.
I think Bryson's
Yeah.
fourth in the world right now.
Like he auto qualified on the Ryder Cup playing just
Yeah.
the four majors. And so it's like, it's disappointing, I think, as a fan to not be able to get to watch those guys on a regular basis. And I mean, I've tried to watch live events. They're hard to find on TV. Like I would watch the live tour, not because I think the product's fantastic or anything like that, but I'm a fan of golf and I like to watch the best players in the world. It's just hard to find the CW network or Fox. And like, I think if that changes, it'll be a little bit better. But I think the ultimate thing is getting the tour back together. And there's a lot of people that are smarter than me and more well versed that probably could give a better answer than that. But as a player in my shoes, I think it opens up more opportunities because now there's a pathway to live on the Asian tour and there's a live Q school and like Corn Ferry and PJ Americas, and you get more opportunities. But at the same time, if you like really look into how the tour is moving, like they're shrinking cards, it's going down to 100. Corn Ferry shrunk cards. So the opportunities to be on the middle level tours have probably increased. But to get to that highest level and stay at that highest level, I think has gotten a lot harder. And that can prove to have, better results with overturn and new players. But I think it's going to be hard to get those like superstars that are, up there consistently, other than like, your Rory and your JT and stuff like that. Like, I think you saw it with Ludwig and Clanton, and I think Koivin's going to be next. But it's like, it's just hard to get there and it's hard to stay there now,
Oh, and
especially
Nick.
without a win. Yeah. And Nick.
Yeah.
And like Nick falls into that category where he has two wins. So like his status is completely different than say a Luke Clanton, right? Like
Yeah.
Clanton gets his card, but if he doesn't have a win and he falls out of the top 100 in the points list, like he's no longer on tour. And
Yeah.
that's tough. Like he's one of the best players I've ever played with. Like I think he deserves to be on the PGA Tour.
So I think going into the Ryder Cup, and I think that's where all this kind of conversation stems from. Before we go into the specifics and you talk about maybe your breakdown and what you think, do you think the PGA Tour should do more team golf? Because I do. I wish that they did more stuff like the Zurich Classic. I wish that they did more, and I don't like the TGL. I think that
Mhm.
if I understand what they're trying to do. I think it's a dumb concept personally. I would rather them just do maybe tournaments that have like a best ball tournament or like even doing like a alternate shot tournament, like things of that nature. I wish that the tour did more of that rather than just leaving it to TGL and then doing the Ryder Cup and President's Cup every year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think more events like the Zurich would be really cool. Kind of partly because of what like we just talked about, where it's like if you win the Zurich, I'm pretty sure you get a 2-year exemption,
Yep.
both of you on the team. So like, I mean, Rory and Shane play together every the last 2 years, but like imagine a Rory going with, a younger guy on the PGA Tour who doesn't have a win and like now it matters not only for Rory but for his partner. Like that's a big deal. And I think it would be cool to see. I don't think getting together and making like teams of five and playing college golf would be very interesting. And the only way I think you do make it interesting is if you have kind of the live model, but like really the TGL model where there's owners and like cities and home bases. I actually like that aspect of TGL where it's like this is a brand that I recognize after watching it on TV and I can invest in it. And there's like an owner and a CEO and a trade clause and a cut clause. Like that's cool. I don't know about the indoor place. Like you said, it's just kind of simulator golf, and I think it's a cool concept. I think it'd be better on real golf course.
I agree.
Yeah, but I do think there's a place for team golf, and like I think college golf is just so different, right? Because like when I played for Alabama, I played for Alabama. Like that was the point of team golf was like I cared about the team. And so like when you're on a team where you're just on the team because they paid you a lot of money, I I wouldn't care. Like it'd be great. I would love to play on the Live Tour and make that money and play professional golf like that. But it's hard to get those guys to buy in, right? And like I think they tried to do that with, like offering ownership stake for the players and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's just money. And like those guys have a lot of it. So like what's a little more? Whereas you have like Team Jupiter, JT's on Jupiter, I believe, and he lives there. So it's like he's got to go out into town, and any of the golf fans that watch TGL, like they're gonna be like, "Hey, dude, why's the team suck?" Or "What? Great job last week," or like, "Let's do this." And like, I would like to see more of that. To answer your question, yes. And I
Yeah.
think too, like the Zurich is a great model. Like those two-person teams where you get to play alternate shot, best ball, alternate
Yep.
shot, best ball. Like that makes for interesting TV and it makes for an interesting product. And it's hard to do that with other players. Like you run into something you'll see this week is like an alternate shot. A lot of these guys don't play the same golf ball. So they'll pick a golf ball that they want to play on that hole. And once you've hit the tee shot, like you've got to play that ball. There's no substituting it in or out. So that's a totally different aspect that like, the normal golf fan won't realize or recognize, but it's a real like hard part of playing team golf like that.
Well, and also different yardages, right? Like if you're paired with
Yeah.
Bryson, you might have 50 yards in, and what if you're not a good, wedge player within that 50 yards, and now you have to have that conversation with Bryson of like, hey, we need to hit this here because I'm better at this distance, and it's a lot more collaboration, and I think that that's what professional golf is missing is collaboration between guys.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously I want to win. I need to win. It's an individual sport, but like it doesn't have to be, is my point.
Yeah.
Like it could be a two-person thing sometimes, or different things like that. But going into the Ryder Cup, give me your thoughts. You're going on Friday. Um, who do you think who do you think wins? And I want to know who do you think wins and who do you think from both teams will be the best player throughout the weekend?
So I think America wins, and I think it's going to be close. I don't think it's a blowout. I think the European team is very good. Um, and like I don't know what to read about the whole like buying into the team thing with Europe because it feels like they do this every year. And it's always like, oh, they're such a team, they're such a team, they're such a team. And they lost at Whistling Straits. They lost, I think, the last time they were in America. Last time they won in America was what, Medina in
Yeah.
2012. So it's like it's just really hard to win on the road, basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like they do look like a team and they're very good, but I think America gets that bump of being at home. I think Bryson actually will have a big bump on how the American crowds react. I think he's going to play a lot this week. Um, I think JT's going to have a good week. He's always good in team competition. And I I'm excited to see how the idea of them playing the Pro Tour works out because I think that's actually a really good idea for the team. Um, them kind of traveling over there, like doing the whole week of preparation, making sure everybody's sharp, and then doing a full week of practice at Bethpage the week before. I think that's a good model, and like I hope it works because I think it would be good to continue doing that for Ryder Cup captains going down the road, like not forcing them to, but encouraging them to play 2 weeks before. Um, I think one thing too that is going to be interesting is like who do you pair Bryson with and who do you pair Scotty with? Like because Scotty's so good, he can kind of win with anyone. But then like you look at the Brooks match where they lost like 9-8 in Rome, and it's kind of like, do you send him out with someone who's I don't want to say really good because they're all really good, but like do you send him out with maybe one of the back half of the lineup and see how they do, or do you send him out with the second best player and they just dominate and get a point, right? So I think Keegan is going to have a big decision. I'm excited to see what he does. Um, I I think JJ Spawn might actually have a really good week this week. Um, the rough isn't like super long off the tee from what I've heard, and he's a really good driver of the ball, and he's been putting it fantastic the whole year. So I don't know how much he'll play, but I do think he has a chance of like seriously contributing to the team. Um, Ben Griffin, that's going to be another fun guy to watch. Like, I mean, never played a Ryder Cup. I don't know if he's played a President's Cup. I don't believe he has. So, I mean, like, he's getting thrown into the Lions Den, right? Like, Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black, first team event. I think it's going to be cool. And JJ too, I believe. He might have
Yep,
played a President's Cup, but
he did. No.
yeah, so both of those guys, like, I think it's going to be cool to see them compete and respond to the moment. And I ultimately think it's going to be one of the coolest sporting events we've seen as Americans in like a long time. And it's a shame that like they booked it the same week as some of the best college football
I
games
know.
in the country. But it's like, I think this might be the week where we're like, like golf is kind of cool. And like that was a lot of fun. I think like everyone that attends is going to be like, that was crazy. And that felt like a football game. And I think that's like what we want. I've seen a lot of people like, oh, I hope it doesn't get out of hand. I hope it doesn't get too rowdy. And like, that's fine. And I get the whole it's golf thing. But at the same time, like, imagine going to Georgia this weekend and being like, oh, I hope the fans are nice to me. Like, that doesn't happen, right? Like,
No.
you're in our house. This is America. Like, welcome home. Go out there and like, if you beat us, you beat us. We'll hand it to you. But like, we're not going to make it easy. And I'm not like encouraging people to go out there and scream like the most obscene things you've ever heard, but like, it should be loud and it should be rowdy. And like, I think even Morikawa said that today. He was like, I want it to get, pretty crazy. And I think that's encouraging to hear from the American side.
Can you do you think that Bryson's actually going to attempt to try to drive the green on one?
Yeah, I do. Especially with the right wind, if it's down, especially down off the left because of that angle into the green. I don't think he'll do it if it's calm or into the wind, just because the angle from the right side of that fairway going into that green is hard to get it close. Honestly, it's kind of hard to just stop it on the green in general from the right side of that rough. But I think it's only like 320 or 325 to the front edge, which he would have, or maybe it's 320 in line with the green to the fairway. So like even if he hits it, 330 and it lands in the fairway, I think it gets greenside with how firm and fast the fairways are going to be and everything else. So I think he goes for it. I think Rory could give it a go. And sneaky, I think Cam Young could give it like a run into the front bunkers right
JT
there
was
in front
trying
of the
it.
green. Yeah, and I think they all will. Like, I think too on the broadcast, it'll look like they're all aiming for the green because of the way that hole is built. It's literally almost a 90-degree
Yeah.
angle from like tee box to green. So I think they're going to be aggressive because the rough's not up, and you can hit shots out of first cuts with how good they are. But yeah, I think nobody's going to be hitting it out to the left, at least not on purpose.
Do you, what do you think that they do with JT? This is one of the, it might be one of the only time that JT doesn't have Jordan that he's
Hmm.
playing with on the Ryder Cup or President's Cup. Typically, they always pair Jordan and JT together, similar to Morikawa and I think Xander. They always pair those two together. Who do you think's a good partner for JT for this matchup?
So JT, I think to to your point with him not having speed, like that's kind of why I think he might have a breakout week is it's going to be different for him and like almost they were almost too close to where it's like you're just kind of playing with your buddy. Like I think the best team golf that I've played was with guys in like junior presidents cups or junior Ryder Cups that like you knew them but you like still wanted to perform well, almost to not impress them but like to play at the same level that they were playing at. And I saw a clip from Ian Poulter on a podcast a couple of days ago, and he said that when he played with Rory, he felt like he played his best because Rory was so good that he felt like he had someone to fall back on. And I think JT can be that guy in this situation. Like JT comes off to me as a guy who wants the ball in his hands, like whether he's shooting it good or not, or hitting it good or not. Like he wants the ball with 3 seconds left in the game. And I think that's like it almost matters in events like this more than how you're hitting it. And so like I think you can stick JT out with I think you could stick him out with Ben Griffin or JJ Spawn and they would do fine. Like I think that would be one of the guys I would send out there. I think he would also be fine with like Sam Burns. Him and Bryson, honestly, low key would be kind of a good pairing, I think.
That would be a
Because
really
like
fun,
yeah, I think
like how,
JT would be able to match his like energy and like charisma and like I think they both would have that like we don't really care about your feelings attitude on the golf course. So I think JT's kind of that guy that you could stick out there with almost anyone. I think he's going to be the workhorse.
well, I think JT and Bryson would be a great pairing just because of how they play to the crowd, kind of like maybe they're one of those guys that maybe they're the first guys off the tee that you're using to set the tone for the crowd so that the other guys can get in and get the crowd going, get it like that's what I would do, right?
Yeah.
And I think where JT has struggled this season has been off the tee and then putting, which Bryson's excelled at, putting throughout the season when he's been in the majors, and then obviously off the tee, like he's going to be able to get JT into a wedge range that he's comfortable with, which that's where JT excels is within his short game. So I think that Bryson and JT would be a great, first pairing just to see how it goes. But I don't know if you want to put your two heavy hitters, is what I would call them, two heavy hitters in the same
Yeah.
group.
Well, and like to that point, right? Like we get to set up the Ryder Cup as Americans. So like we determine how long the rough is, we determine how fast the greens are, where the pins are. So like for a guy like JT who like, you said he's been struggling with his driving this week, missing the fairway is not going to be that big of a deal, which is ironic to say at Bethpage Black, but it's really like he's going to be able to play from out of the rough. Whereas at Marco Simone in Rome and in Paris, if you missed the fairway, it was a death sentence. Like you couldn't play from out of there. And that's kind of why they beat us down. And like Whistling Straits, it's wide open and wide and big and long. And this place is going to be the same way. And so like I think if there was a place to send out your two hitters, it's here where they can get away with spraying it a little bit off the tee. But if they have 20 yards advantage, 30 yards advantage into a green, it's almost even ball game.
It's funny because we've talked about the last two episodes encapsulating American golf versus European golf, and like that's directly what is happening in the Ryder Cup, which is,
Hmm.
the Americans are trying to play bomber golf. I would call it bomber golf,
Yeah, it's
whereas
bomb and gouge.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so before we go to the questions, and I know this has been a little bit longer than what we typically would be doing, there was something that I actually didn't even mention to you mentioned this to you before getting on the mid-am debate that you got
Hmm.
into. Maybe it was last week or talking about. Let me find this tweet. He was a Corn Ferry. He won $400,000 on the Corn Ferry Tour alone, got status, and then was able to qualify as a mid-am despite essentially not being an amateur. What is your thoughts on that? Just quick rundown on kind of
Yeah,
that situation.
so that's a nuanced debate, right? Like, and a lot of people have very differing, like, charged opinions on that, at least on Twitter. And a lot of those charged opinions come from bot accounts and like people that don't have a profile picture. But my point is this guy that you just mentioned, right? He played on the Corn Ferry Tour. He made 400 grand. He probably played out there for 2 or 3 years, and he never made it to the PGA Tour. He applied to the USGA for his amateur status back. They granted the application. He had to wait. I think he said he quoted my tweet, but he said 4 or 5 years that he waited to be reinstated as an amateur. So, like, my point is, it seemed like a lot of people were mad about the amateurs, and that's more of like a USGA thing, right? Like their anger should be directed toward the USGA. And I still think their anger is misguided. Half the people will hate me for saying that, half the people won't. I think he paid his dues, he did his time, like he waited, he got his amateur status back, and now he gets to play mid-amateur golf. And like it's tough to be like, well, he's not an amateur. And then you've got the number one player in college golf making $550,000 in NIL. Like, how is that guy an amateur? He's made more money this year than that guy did his entire career. So like I think there's a big problem with what is an amateur right now. And like I think moving forward, it's not gonna get any more clear. Like I think it's gonna be you either like are a pro and you have status and you get paid to play, or you're an amateur who's in college who's making money playing golf. Like I was I wasn't being paid that much at Alabama, but I made money from NIL. Like that's kind of against amateurism, right? Like I don't know what the rule is or like what the actual like stipulate. I mean, I do know what the rule is. We followed the rules, but it's like, what's the line, right?
Yeah.
Between what is an amateur and what is NIL and what is a pro? Like that was kind of my whole point of the tweet is like the line is so blurred and muddy now that like you can't sit there and tell me that this guy is not an amateur when I'm watching this guy at the USAM I played with in a practice round who has NetJets on his sleeve and he's got MasterCard on his collar and he's got Titleist on his other sleeve and like he's got an agent and he's got an entourage and he's got three dudes that are like videoing his swing and his coach and like I just don't know what the line is. And someone did, I will say, someone brought up that like if they made the mid amateur strictly like dudes with jobs, right? That never like had status,
Yeah.
never like they played college golf, got a job. Like I would be okay with that. That's actually that makes a lot of sense to me. And like even if you did it in like the senior amateur or like stuff like that, it makes sense. But I think when you start telling me that like this guy can't play in the US amateur 5 years after playing professionally when these dudes are making absorbent amounts of money in college playing golf. Like it doesn't make sense to me. And I think it's like kind of the whole Ryder Cup debate about getting paid. Like it seems like they're making mountains out of molehills and like people are gonna be mad about that probably. But like I don't know. The line is blurred and like how do you know which one's right and which one's wrong? I don't think you can.
So keeping on the amateur train, I'm gonna get into some questions. We already answered the Ryder Cup breakdown from former Alabama golfer, teammate of yours, Dylan West. Brad asked, "What was it like to caddy for your brother at the USAM? Was it how special was it to see him do well? And what was Olympic Club like in general? Seemed like there were fireworks everywhere."
Yeah, so I mean, caddying for Cooper, my little brother at the USAM, was one of the most fun experiences I've had in golf. And I think it really stems back from like I became really, talented at golf around like 13 or 14. And I got my first offer from Alabama at 14. I played really big junior events, like I was pretty good in college, and the whole time Cooper was playing golf at the same time, but he wasn't having the success that I was having. He was having success but it just wasn't at the same level. And there was a lot of times where he came to the Junior President's Cup and he came to the Junior Ryder Cup and he watched and like he told me, like I want to do this. Like this is my goal. And so I think for me it was interesting being on the opposite side, right? Where I've played USAMs. I didn't have any success at USAMs. I never made a match play. I never really even sniffed making a match play. So like to see him go out. And last year he played in the USAM and he shot like 6 under at the alternate course and then played bad at the real course and missed match play by like two shots. So kind of what we were talking about earlier, like to see him qualify for the US Amateur again, which is a big deal, and then to go out there and play two really hard golf courses successfully, and then play a fantastic match of match play against John Daly that he lost one down on the last hole. Like it was fantastic. And I had such a blast, like being able to put my expertise in with yardage books and all that stuff. Like he had never stepped off yardages before. So like I'm letting him shoot the distance, but I'm also stepping it off in the yardage book to make sure it's 100% correct. And like teaching him how to do that, teaching him like what I think is how to hit some shots, chipping wise or wedge shots, or, when we're in trouble, how do we get it back into the right place? Like it was a really, really fun week. And I hope an opportunity like that presents itself again because I would jump at the opportunity to do it. And he's such a good golfer and he hits it so much farther than me. So like that aspect of seeing where he gets to play from as opposed to where I play from and how the two games are different, I think was a really fun opportunity and experience for me.
So we're talking about course management, and this comes from B-Man on Instagram. He says, advice for course management strategy. How do you think about each hole before your first shot? How can a weekend golfer adopt that mindset and apply it to their game?
Yeah, so I think, golf course strategy is so difficult because everyone's different, like we just said with distance and stuff. But I always liked if it was a hole where there was trouble, and this sounds ironic, but like if it's trouble on both sides or trouble up one side, the whole length of the hole, and there's nowhere to kind of bail to, I always just hit driver, which is probably not great advice. But if you succeed with the driver, you're now in a much better place statistically than you would be if you laid up off the tee and had to hit a 7 iron or a 6 iron. Like, I think a lot of the times people think like laying up off the tee is safe, and it might be safe from a you're not going to lose the ball standpoint, but it's not conducive to shooting better scores, I don't think, in a weird way. Now, like what we were talking about earlier with a 3-shot lead with one to play, I'm laying back off the tee with an iron. But if I'm playing and it's the 12th hole and I'm even par and there's water up the left, like I'm ripping dog if it is as wide at the 220 mark than it is the 320 mark. Like unless there's a pinch in the fairway or somewhere that you have to avoid, I don't think laying up off the tee is a good option. And then, like, I think figuring out when you're out of play, like if you do hit it in the trees, I think not pulling off the miracle shot or trying to pull off the miracle shot, if you'll punch out back into the fairway and play from where you just punched it to, I think that's really the big difference because I do play with a lot of mid handicappers and they'll go par, 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 bogey, quad. And it's like, dude, you were playing really good for 5 holes and then you hit it left and it took you 4 shots to get out of the trees and you made a quad. Like, what if you were 2 over through 6 instead of 5 over through 6? Like that's a whole different game. And then like course management too, like when you get up by the green, putt it, putt it every chance you get. Like until you are good enough to like know exactly where you're going to land it and what speed the ball is going to roll after the first bounce and after it takes a check and spins a little bit, or like you know exactly which window it's coming out of height wise and spin RPM wise, like you shouldn't be chipping it. You're not good enough to chip it. Like respectfully, I love all of the golfers out there, but like you're not good enough to do it. And it might work every once in a while, but if you three putt, that's better than blading it over the green and then blading it back over the green and then putting it, right? Like I think everything course management wise is minimizing your big numbers other than with the driver. And like that's case by case. And I think if you play golf, you know which holes you need to hit iron off of or 3 wood off of and which holes you need to hit driver off of.
And I do want to mention the one piece of advice you gave us on the previous show, which is if you're a amateur golfer, weekend golfer, don't play from the tips.
Yeah, don't. Dude,
They're
never play from the tips. Like, even if you're good, don't play from the like no one's making you play from the tips. Every time I've played up, it's been so much fun. I make way more birdies. I hit it closer to the hole. Like I hit, and sometimes I think you'll find if you're a lower mid handicap and you play up a tee, some of the tee shots become more challenging because now you're hitting into the dog leg or you're hitting around the water or over the water. Like some of the best rounds I've like felt helped me the most was when I went out and played the red tees because now I'm driving it up into the neck of the green, which is 20 yards wide instead of being 40 yards wide. Like I think you have to learn how to make low numbers. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but like I'm glad you brought that up because that is like you should play up until you feel like you have almost mastered that tee box. And then once you've mastered it, that's when you get to move back. Like, don't go back and beat yourself up and then be like, oh, well, I guess I should move forward. Like, start forward and move back.
Well, I was just gonna say you don't want a 5 iron into every hole, right?
No, it
Like
sucks.
you want a 9 iron or a wedge into every hole. And I think when you told us that, you were like, you need to work on like as a weekend golfer is what I would classify, people or like myself as maybe not even weekend because I only play like once a month, but um like me hitting a 5 iron, like yeah, I can hit a 5 iron and it is probably one of my better clubs in the bag, but like the spray of where I can hit my 5 iron is a lot wider than the spray of where I can hit a 9 iron, right? And
Yeah.
being able to hit those easy second shots into holes and getting it closer to the hole makes your score lower. Like
Yep.
not hitting a 5 iron that's going to hit in a greenside bunker, and then now you're forced to, pull out a wedge to get it out of the bunker, and then now you're putting it over the green, and then we're in the situation that you were just talking about.
Yeah.
Like I think that that's some of the best advice that you've given us or given me specifically, which is don't let other people that want to go play the tips justify you playing the tips or
Yeah.
make you or force you to play the tips. If you want to play the whites, play the whites. If you want to play the yellows, play the yellows. If you want to go out and play the reds. Like that.
Yeah. And so, like, one thing I'll say is, like, my high school teammates in Kentucky, none of them played college golf. They're all good golfers. They were all like one, two handicaps, and they still are. And I play a lot of golf with them. But one thing we did at our home course was we played the blues every time we played, which was two tees up from the back tees. And granted, we had a really hard golf course at home that was pretty long, so we kind of needed to play up. But what I noticed was when we went out and played together in our little money games in high school, I was making like 8 or 9 birdies. And like our four-man on the high school team was making 4 or 5 birdies. Like we got into that mode where it was like, we're gonna make 6 birdies today. We're gonna make 7 birdies today. Like, and then once you get in that mode, it's like just because I moved back a tee doesn't now change my mindset. Like I'm geared to make 7 birdies. And so like you start hitting your 5 iron closer, you start hitting your 6 iron closer, you start making more putts. Like, because I think in a round where you play the tips as a weekend golfer, you might have 3 chances at birdie, 4 chance like legitimate chances at birdie from inside of 20 feet, right? Like that's not fun. That's brutal and hard. And like it doesn't really teach you anything. You're just kind of like getting it around, playing for par. And like you can do that, but I don't think it's going to be conducive to you playing better golf.
So last question we have, which college golf book. He wants to know your perspective on the Crimson Reserve. So for those of you that are not Alabama fans and um, aren't familiar, Crimson Reserve is the new Alabama golf facility that was just built for the men's and women's golf team. I think it opened last year. Um, and he wants to know what your thoughts on the Crimson Reserve are. And I think he asked how you use a facility like that to work on your game. I think that would be in relation to if you were still a college golfer, how would you use that facility to better your game?
Yeah, so the Crimson Reserve is amazing. It's one of the nicest, like best built facilities I've ever seen. And that's not even me being biased. Like it's truly phenomenal. And what they did was they took the guy who designed the Grove back in Jupiter, down in Jupiter, where like Justin Thomas, Rory, all these guys practice at, and they built the range similar to the way Grove is built. And how I would use it is you like the back of the range has say like 7 or 8 targets, right? With green, like real green structures. And so we would do in practice, like I was never there, but what we did when we went down to Grove and simulated a practice was you have shots from say like 120 yards, right? Where you get 3 points for keeping it on the top shelf. You get 2 points if you miss right and on the top shelf, and you get 1 point if you miss left and it's on the top shelf. And then the next green might be a pin on the right. And so opposite, right? Like 3 points for top, 1 point if you miss right, 2 points if you miss left. Like And so you start getting into this mode where it's like, I'm not on a range hitting balls, I'm hitting real shots that have consequences. And, like I can't miss right here, I can't miss left here. This is the objective. And so I think it makes practice a lot more clear when you're out there and you have a clear objective of what you're doing. And I think the biggest part is every time those guys leave the driving range, they probably feel like they got better. And that's something that like when we were at Alabama or I was at Alabama, our range was fine, but it was simply a range. I mean, it was the range at Old Colony, right? So like you have targets to hit at, but like yeah, I hit 15 good 7 irons today, I think. I don't know actually how close they were. Like they were kind of at the target. And it was enough. Like we were a good golf team and we had a good practice facility. But now it's just so much higher. And I think the other thing that a lot of people probably haven't seen or don't know about is in their locker room, they have a cold tub. And before that, we would go to Clark at the basketball facility. Clark's the athletic trainer for the basketball team, one of my best friends. I love Clark. But we would have to like wait until basketball was done, or like if they had practice or something, like they had, pick of the litter, and you had to just kind of like base your schedule around another team, which was fine. Like we didn't have a problem with doing that. But now they can go straight from workouts to the facility. They can cold tub, then they can go practice, they can change, cold tub, go home, right? So like when I was at school, it was like I go workout, go to class, then I go back to the basketball facility, hot tub, cold tub, then I go home, change, then I got to go out to the golf facility, then I got to go back home, change, then go to the hot tub, cold tub, and then go home and then study. So it's like I think a lot of the stuff that they built there, like people won't even see or really understand, but it makes it so much easier as a student athlete to like plan your day and plan your practice. And it's an amazing facility. I'm so happy they built it. I'll never say a bad thing about Greg Byrne. I'll never say a bad thing about JC Will. Like they did an incredible thing getting that facility built. And I think it's going to be a powerhouse for the next 40 years. Like I don't know why you wouldn't want to go there.
Well, and I'm surprised that they haven't, and maybe it's in the works that they haven't talked about like hosting any tournaments or anything. It feels like
Mhm.
that would be like top of the mind or top of priority because of how new and how state of the art the facility is.
Yeah, and so like I will say that might be the one downside is I don't think you could host a golf tournament there. It's only 9 holes, but it's
Oh,
built,
okay.
to be played I think like 24 different ways. Like you could get 24 holes out of it. Um and like I will say when I played it with them for qualifying when I was there a couple weeks ago, like it made sense and there was no holes that were like that shouldn't go there or that doesn't make sense. Like it does make sense when you're playing it, but I don't think you could have 70 people out there kind of crisscrossing at the same time. Um, which I really don't know if that's a bad thing. Like because the golf team is going to have just full reign of the place and like they don't have to get a tee time, they don't have to talk to a starter. Like when I was at school, playing Old Colony was a nightmare. Like we had to play it at Saturday at 7 a.m. And like some of the guys didn't want to be there on Saturday at 7 a.m. and I didn't blame them. So like I think with all of the golf courses they have around Tuscaloosa, Shoal, Birmingham Country Club, Vestavia, like I think they're okay with hosting an event at one of those places instead of Tuscaloosa. And I think too, from like a hosting standpoint, like hosting in a college town is hard because it's the end of the summer and there's not much going on. So like my two, I played four regionals, I guess, but like one of the ones we won the one in Norman, Oklahoma, and like school wasn't in session, nothing was going on. So you just like you go play golf and then you go back to the hotel and you sit there and you wait to play golf until the next day. So like I think when they play it at a place like Birmingham Country Club and you can go out and have dinner at like a cool place in Birmingham, it's better than when you're in Tuscaloosa during the summer and no one's there from a like player enjoyment perspective. So that's a maybe weird nuanced take, but the golf course is fantastic to practice on.
Were you? on the team that played in the national championship when Oklahoma State won?
No, that was the semester before I got there.
Okay. I
Yeah.
was deeply involved in following along that. I was just curious, but
Well, and like
um
that's another thing that you run into, right? Like Oklahoma State shouldn't be allowed to play their national championship at Oklahoma State.
yep.
And that's not like a dig at Oklahoma State or any of the coaches or the staff. Like they did what was allowed. But when you have like an Oklahoma State in golf is like an Alabama in football, right? Like people care about golf in Karsten at Karsten Creek. And people care about golf at Alabama. That was one thing I loved about Alabama. But like I think they had 20,000 people there at the NCAA final to watch them win. And like you're talking about some college freshman or college sophomore playing against 20,000 opposing fans on a golf course at Karsten Creek, like where it's already really hard. Like it just seems like such a massive, wild advantage that, teams got away with for a long time.
Well, and
And
not to
it's not
mention
like that way anymore.
not to mention they practiced at that course. Like that was their home course. So they
Yeah.
every single day they were out there playing the holes. They knew the man, don't get me down that rabbit hole of how that was
Yeah.
unfair. But
Well, and like
um
some guys, to your point, like they played it every day for 5 years, even if they're not allowed to play it for the 6 months leading up to the tournament. Like this dude's been there. He's a redshirt senior, if that's the case. Like he's played this course probably 1,000 times. Like it doesn't matter if he hasn't played it in 6 months, nothing's changed. So like I don't know. It did seem unfair, and like I don't really know how or why they did it because like the SEC championship, it's always at Seaside and Sea Island, and like my little brother Cooper one year was playing the Jones Cup Junior, and I went to watch, and someone texted me and was like, "Don't go out there," and I was like, "Why?" And they were like, "If you go out there, it might be deemed as a violation just to like see the golf course."
oh.
And so I wasn't able to go watch Cooper play. Like I sat in the clubhouse and waited for him to finish. And it's just like that weird rule where it's like, why do we have these stipulations, but like then the national championship is at, you know, a home college golf course. And they fixed that. Like with Greyhawk, it was good. Technically, Arizona State hosted that, but like that wasn't Arizona State's home course. And then now at Omni in California, like it's a really good place to have it. And I think they're going to be there for a while. So they fixed the problem, but yeah, I do think for a while it was probably an unfair advantage.
Well, Kanan, anything else?
No, I feel like I talked a lot. I'm sorry if I did talk a lot, but I've had a lot on my mind with not doing a podcast last week. And obviously Sweden was a lot, and we had a lot of great stories to tell, and the Ryder Cups this week. So, if you're not rooting for America this week, don't interact with me, don't text me, don't talk to me because
Don't
I'm
listen to the
pretty
podcast either.
charged. Yeah, listen to the podcast.
Okay, listen to the
Well,
podcast.
yeah, listen to the podcast, but then yeah, I don't know. I'm very emotionally charged this week. Like I'm very excited for this event and I think it's going to be fantastic. I don't think it's going to get out of hand. I think everyone's going to be respectful and there's going to be some good banter, but I think it's going to be a home field advantage. That's what I want.
Well, I think for our schedule, we'll try to get on some type of like weekly thing. Maybe we'll do a podcast next week recapping Ryder Cup. Um, I think we may do, since you're going, we may do a giveaway where we'll get like a hat or something and do like a follow giveaway, just for people interacting with the podcast and things of that nature. So be on the lookout for that. Um, like I said, super excited for the Ryder Cup. I plan on watching it all day. I'll have football on one screen and I'll have golf on the main screen. Watching that until 7:30, where Alabama plays. Well, when Alabama beats Georgia. But um,
Amen.
I'm excited. I'm jealous that you're going to Bethpage. Send lots of photos and can't wait to recap that next week.
Yeah, appreciate it, Christian. Great to talk to you and thanks to everyone who listens.